are going to talk Newcastle. I think it's important to talk Newcastle. Harvey Barnes set to join Newcastle from Leicester. I think it's a fantastic signing. Obviously, Sandro Tonali, that one was confirmed as well. So Newcastle doing shopping in the right place. Let's welcome in John Lane from the True Faith Newcastle United podcast. John, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for giving us some time. Newcastle shopping in Harrods. Really, everyone else looks like they're going Aldi. Newcastle look like they're getting the job done correctly. Harvey Barnes, I think, is a fantastic signing. Double-digit goals for Leicester, a struggling Leicester. We know how good he can be. When on form, Gareth Southgate had him in the England squad as well. So that's the talent you've just got, or at least you want to get.
I mean, this is a classic Eddie Howe for me, I think. He's full of energy, and I think, he's got Premier League experience. And I think if you look at a lot of the signings we've made, with the exception of Botman, Guimaraes and Tonali, who, two of those we know already fit really well in the Premier League last year. You've got somebody there who's ready-made Premier League player who can do a job for you. So, I think if this goes ahead, it's a fantastic signing for the club. I think it's somewhere that we did need to strengthen. Very excited to see what you do in a black and white shirt.
Jonathan, can I ask you, the signing of Tonali? Ade and I yesterday were having a bit of a debate about the significance of the signing, what it means. For me, the signing of Sandro Tonali by Newcastle United is the defining moment. It's the moment where I've decided that Newcastle are no longer the definition of the club that I have grown up with. They are something different. Does it feel like that? When Chelsea signed Ruud Gullit, or maybe when Arsenal got hold of Dennis Bergkamp, life changed and the club never was quite the same again. I think Tonali could be that for you. Is that how you're feeling about it, or have I overstated it?
I think it's been an incredible journey just the last 18 months, to be quite honest with you. There's a lot of talk about the investment, the fact that, we're 8% owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. But I think if you step back and look at the signings we've actually made, we've been fairly sensible in the market. We're not making the kind of signings that the Saudi Pro League are making at the moment, with those kind of wages and those kind of money, and that's never been the strategy. And I think for all of us fans, to be quite honest, we just wanted wanted ownership that cared, that wanted the club to improve. That's what the motivation's been. And I think that actually the guys that are running it on the ground are doing that. The likes of Darren Eales, Dan Ashworth, that's what they're trying to do. And I think Tonali, it just shows that there was a lot of talk about, were we in for Maddison? Were we in for the Hungarian guy that I can't pronounce, who signed for Liverpool?
Szoboszlai.
That's the one. Were we in for those? But actually, I think all along we've been in for Tonali, and I think Barnes is one that's that it's a very opportune signing. We've got a bit of habit of doing this. We went to Burnley last season and signed Nick Pope. We signed Chris Wood when, Burnley were down the bottom of the league. Leicester, of course, have been relegated. So, we're not afraid to go to relegated clubs and sign good players from them. And I think Barnes is, arguably better than any winger that we have at the moment. And this is the other thing that Howe's doing. He's signing first 11 players. He's not looking and saying, right, how can I improve on Javier Manquillo? I'll get a right back slightly better than him. We're looking at, how can we improve that first 11? And ultimately that means your squad gets better. And we're going to need depth with the additional games next year.
If I was to tell you 18 months ago that you're not going to need or want, or he's not even going to get on the bench, Alan Saint-Maximin, you would have said I was crazy. And I guess this shows the growth of your squad and the quality of the players that you're getting into the club. Because for me, every time I saw Alan Saint-Maximin, again, around a year ago, he was Mr. Newcastle. It's almost like, get him the ball and he'll save the day. And now, although I still think he's a good squad player, he's almost not wanted or maybe not even needed by Newcastle.
I wouldn't say he's not wanted. I think he's. Look, I love Saint-Maximin. I think he gave us a lot of hope in a very difficult time for the club. And I think he's always wanted, from what I can see anyway, I think he's always wanted to do well. He's always talked, great about the city. He's been great around things like the food bank and giving back to the community. I wouldn't want to sit on radio and say that he's not wanted. I think if you look at realistically, you look at the squad and you look at what are our saleable assets, he's probably the most saleable asset that you'd be not happy to lose, but you'd kind of accept it if a bid came in to consider it. and that's the realistic thing. Over the last year or so, there have been injuries, and he can't help that. But has he struggled to kind of fit into Howe ball possibly? And not that he can't do it or wouldn't be able to do it, but do you look at some point and say, actually, if a bid comes in, you do consider it and think that's an option? I think if you look at some of his social media, there's a lot of cryptic messaging in there. It feels like maybe they've already had that conversation with him. But you just don't know. And you know what it is, if he's there in the summer, Newcastle fans will be supporting him all the way. He's been a great player for us.
Jonathan, last year, top 4 and a cup final. Now you've backed that up with signing a player like Tonali, Harvey Barnes arriving. What are the genuine ambitions for next season? What are you hoping to see at St James's Park?
I think if we can qualify for Europe next year, and get into the next round of the Champions League, and I don't want to sound too greedy, but have another good cup run, that would represent a great season for us. I'd love us to qualify for the Champions League again. I think what we have to consider is that Liverpool have severely strengthened. Chelsea could potentially come back. Who knows what Spurs can do? So we can only focus on what we do, and Eddie Howe will not be looking at this season thinking, I want to finish top 6. He will want to improve on what we're doing. He will want to be competitive in the Champions League. He will want to be competitive in the Cups. That's the mentality of the club. But I think if we were to finish top 6, knockout round of the Champions League, and have a good cup run, that for me is a very strong season for us.